Empire.
We're only a few weeks away, and we're taking a look at 10 of the most pressure-packed storylines that await when the NFL kicks off training camp and the regular season as a whole. What's up, everybody? It's Mike Jones. Thanks for coming back for another episode of the Football Jones podcast. You can read me at usatoday.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByMikeJones. And we are almost there. We're at that point of the offseason where I think everybody is trying to soak up that last little bit of summer because, yes, I know there's still more weeks of summer left. But for the NFL world, summer is about to end. And so at the same time, while everybody's trying to soak up the last little bit of summer, we're really ready for the season to get here. Even especially for me, and I shouldn't say especially, but absolutely, most definitely, I'm ready for the season to get here. After last year's tough year, I am so ready to be able to get on the road and get back in front of players. Training camp is coming. We're supposed to be allowed to have face-to-face interviews with players and coaches after that was not the case last year. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to help me be able to do my job better. Also going to mean more interviews for the podcast right here. But right now we're just trying to tread water, get there to the season. This week, sorry, this is a couple days late coming out. I had a guest planned with a player on Tuesday, and he's on his way in between transit back from vacation, and he had travel complications, and flight got canceled, got pushed back a day. So, I understand guys are trying to get their last little bit of time in with the families. Same thing with, us reporters here. But I did want to come to you and talk about what's coming, because this, every NFL season is intriguing, and this year is no different. And I wanted to take a look at 10 of the most pressure-packed situations that are across the league, because there's no shortage of drama here, and I don't think there is any bigger storyline than Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. And I thought it was interesting this past week that he was playing in the match against Tom Brady and a couple pro golfers, and he's still being very guarded with his answers. He was asked, what's going to happen? Is he going to be there when they report? And he kind of just smiled and said, I don't know. We'll see. I still have to believe that the Packers are going to find a way to work this thing out. I don't know if Rodgers is going to be there on day one of camp, but everything I hear talking to people, they're not going to trade him. And so if he wants to play, it's going to have to be in Green Bay. He did not opt out. He could have opted out by the deadline, which was July 2nd, claiming COVID reasons. That would have kept him from forfeiting money, but he did not. So he intends to play, but where? He looks in good shape. He said he's been tending to his mental health, which is very important. So we're going to see where it is. I think it's going to be Green Bay. I just don't know how this is going to end. They haven't made any changes to their front office. They haven't worked out an extension with him yet. If he's changed his plans, they are not making it public. He is not making it public. So we're going to see. The number 2 storyline that I'm going to be watching, not just for training camp, but throughout this season, is how the Seattle Seahawks do, because I feel like they've really got to win this year. I'm not saying they have to win the Super Bowl, but they've got to take steps towards the Super Bowl, because Russell Wilson, as we know, is getting a little anxious. He's watching Tom Brady win. He's watching guys win around him, and he sees that window. He doesn't know if it's shrinking, and there was talk that he was frustrated and wanted to be traded this past year, and they didn't do that. He wants to be able to have input in the way things are run, and the players that they get, and the system that they run. And so the Seahawks, they went out in free agency. They upgraded their offensive line. In the draft, they added some more weapons. They really have to make sure that Russell Wilson feels supported and appreciated. New offensive coordinator Shane Waldron, his relationship with Wilson is going to be very important. If Wilson feels like he's got a stake in this thing, then I think things are fine. But if things go poorly, if they're not winning a lot of the same problems. If they don't, let him, really have a real leadership role in the way things are operated on the field, I could see him come to the offseason and really saying, okay, you know what? I gave you guys one more chance. Get me out of here. I'm ready to go. So that's number 2. Number 3, I'm looking at Matt Nagy's job security in Chicago. He's entering his 4th season. He's got one more year left on his deal after this. He had a really encouraging first season, 12-4 as a rookie head coach. And then 8-8 last year, 8-8 the year before that. They did squeak into the playoffs last year, but they have a lot of issues. Quarterback, they wanted to pin a lot of their struggles on Mitchell Trubisky. He is now gone. He's a backup in Buffalo. They signed Andy Dalton. He is going to be the starter. They drafted Justin Fields. They're going to try to do the whole red shirt thing like the Kansas City Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith when Matt Nagy was the offensive coordinator there. So we'll see how this goes. But this team's got to win. They've got to be competitive, and that's why they're leaning on Andy Dalton to be that veteran. And I think he can still play. They've got a good defense. They've got to really challenge for their division, I think, to help Matt Nagy, because if they have an awful year, he could be gone. So he is definitely on the hot seat. Another guy with a lot of pressure on him is New York Giants quarterback Daniel Jones. He is now entering year 3, and many of the same questions are surrounding him as when the Giants drafted him 6th overall in 2019. Listen to this. In 21 games, he has committed 36 turnovers while throwing just 35 touchdowns. He is 8-18 as a starter. That's not going to cut it. That is not a guy that is a 6th overall pick. And look, the head coach here is a new guy, Joe Judge. This is his 2nd year. He is not as invested in Daniel Jones as, say, a guy who handpicked him. I know he didn't have Saquon Barkley last year for much of that year, but they've gone out. They're hoping that Barkley's going to be healthy. They've added wide receivers, hoping that'll help give Jones more to work with, but he's got to work on himself. If he's up and down, turning the ball over, making bad decisions, looking lost like much of the time that we've seen him in the last 2 years, really, truthfully, the only time he's looked good is when he's playing the Washington football team. So if he looks like the same lost guy in 2021, the Giants very well could pull the plug on this thing, because that means they're going to have another high pick, and they've got to find that quarterback to be able to start contending. Next storyline I'm going to be looking at is Jon Gruden and the Raiders, because they gave him a 10-year, $100 million contract because they thought that he could turn this organization around and put them in the ranks of contenders quickly. But look, here he is. 3 seasons. He is 19-29, no playoff appearances, and he's supposed to be an offensive guy, and their offense is still it sputters. He's gone through defensive coordinators. He's made changes there. That unit has some promise. They've got some young pieces, but they're still haven't been able to put it all together. And Gruden's in a tough division. I will give him that, with Kansas City and the Chargers. And, he's got challenges, but they are trying to really make a big statement there as they take over that Vegas market and try to make that home. And they want the stadium to be packed. They want it packed with Raiders fans. A big question mark still is Derek Carr. He is under a lot of pressure as well. He has not looked like the guy that they thought they were getting when they gave him that contract extension. I think it was 5 years, $127 million or something like that. About 4 years ago. He just has not looked like the right guy. So he's in the next to last season of his contract. They still have Marcus Mariota. So if Carr struggles, Mariota could wind up taking over. Jon Gruden's feeling the pressure. Yes, he's got a lot of years left on his contract, but the Davis family wants winners. Another story I'm looking at as training camp kicks off is Cam Newton's return in New England. Bill Belichick decided to stick with him despite the fact that Cam really had a disappointing first season in New England. He started off great. He got COVID, and he never really was himself. Looked like he seemed like he was in a fog. He has said that he never really felt right after COVID. His arm strength, there are questions about that. Remember, he's got that surgically repaired shoulder. But we just didn't see the same dynamic dual threat plays that we saw from him in the first 4 weeks. Didn't see that the rest of the season. But Bill Belichick continued to say that Cam was their guy, and it wasn't all him. Now they've gone out, they've added wide receivers, they've added tight ends. So yes, the weapons he was working with were inferior. So Bill Belichick and Cam Newton both think that continuity is going to help him and that he can get back to a high level of play and help them get back into the playoffs. Now that they're back to full force, they've got guys back from opting out of COVID. But that does not mean that Cam won't be on a short leash. They drafted Mac Jones with the 15th overall pick out of Alabama. We don't know yet if Mac Jones is going to challenge him, but it was believed that of the pro-ready quarterbacks coming out of the draft, maybe he didn't have as high a ceiling as some of those guys, but Mac Jones was closer to NFL ready. So if Cam struggles midway through the year, they could pull the plug on that thing and say, okay, we're not where we want it to be. We're rolling with the young guy, get him ready for next year. And so Cam has got the pressure on him to perform.
This episode is brought to you by ESPN Plus. Dustin Poirier and Conor the Notorious McGregor will settle the score at UFC 264 on Saturday, July 10th, exclusively on ESPN Plus. After Conor McGregor defeated Poirier in 2014, Poirier evened the score in January, setting up the most highly anticipated rubber match in UFC history. UFC 264 is exclusively available to ESPN Plus subscribers for $69.99. Or sign up now to get UFC 264 and an ESPN Plus annual plan for $89.98. Visit espnplus.com/Spotify.
Another guy could be on the hot seat right now is Cliff Kingsbury of the Arizona Cardinals. Remember, they hired him, hotshot, young offensive mind, thinking that he was going to be their Sean McVay. But here we are, 2 years in, and look, they were 5-10-1 in 2019, 8-8 last year. That sounds good that they're taking steps forward. But remember, they opened the season 5-3. They closed the season 3-5. Their offense did not take it to another level. Kyler Murray was a little banged up, but Kingsbury has got to show that he can get this team in contention. They're in a very tough division with the Rams, who are going to be better, I think, with Matthew Stafford, with the 49ers, who are going to be better now that they're healthy again. They got everybody back. The Seahawks, again, we talked about them. So Kingsbury has got to show he can win right here, because they did not hire him with the expectation that this thing was going to take a while to turn around. They fired Steve Wilks after one season. If Kingsbury does not win, their patience could run out with him as well. Another guy who has got to perform this year is Jameis Winston down there in New Orleans. Remember, he was the first pick of the 2015 draft. He was supposed to be the face of the franchise for the Buccaneers. Big arm, can make all the throws. The problem is he keeps both teams in the game. And the year before last, his last year in Tampa, he threw 35 interceptions. That is not going to cut it, and that's why they said, sorry, we'll see you later. We're going with Tom Brady. But I thought Winston made a great move of going to New Orleans. He wanted to learn from Drew Brees and Sean Payton. He called it the Harvard Education and Quarterback School, and now he is in line to start. Obviously, he's going to compete with Taysom Hill for that job in training camp, but I think that Jameis Winston will win that job because he's much more skilled, more complete than Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is great as a gadget guy. He's not a full-time quarterback, as we saw last year. But he might wind up being on the field more than what his coaches intended if Jameis Winston cannot take care of the football. So he's got to show that he learned. He's got to show that he understands better how to prepare, how to study, how to anticipate, make better decisions. Otherwise, this could be the last shot for him. Nobody, has much use for a quarterback who throws to the other team more than he throws to his own team. Another guy feeling the heat already is Mike McCarthy down there in Dallas. When they hired him after a year on the sidelines where he supposedly was studying the game and overhauling his practices and things like that, Jerry Jones and the Cowboys thought that Mike McCarthy was going to put them in position to contend for Super Bowls. Well, last year, that definitely didn't happen. I know Dak got hurt, and that's a big problem. That's a big loss. But The defense looked clueless. They were giving up yards at an epic rate. The offense, even before Dak got hurt, was not where it needed to be. And so Mike McCarthy has already fired his defensive coordinator after 1 year. He's got Dan Quinn in there. They've got to get this thing fixed, and fixed in a hurry. The NFC East is wide open, I believe. Washington, yes, they have a very good defense. I've got questions about Ryan Fitzpatrick as your starter. He'll be good for a few games, and he's going to turn into a pumpkin. Big questions in Philly. Jalen Hurts is still learning. We talked about the Giants. So the Cowboys have a chance to contend here, but they have got to have better execution on defense. They've got to better take advantage of what they have in Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott. So Mike McCarthy's got to get this thing figured out, or this stint in Dallas could be very short. And the last of the high-pressure situations that I'm looking at is in Pittsburgh. This could be Big Ben's last hurrah. He's 39 years old. He definitely had a drop-off physically down the stretch of last season. Remember, they started out 11-0. Then he hit the wall. They lost 4 of their last 5 games. Then they lost in the playoffs at home to Cleveland. And so there was talk that, he might retire, but he wanted to come back. He wanted so badly that he agreed to overhaul his contract to help out his team, make it more manageable for them to, have room on the salary cap. They've retooled their offensive line, but they need more from Big Ben. He's got to be committed, because a big problem with him was his conditioning, not being in the greatest shape. When you're older, you really got to take care of your body so that you can hold up for the rigors of the season and continue to play at a high level. Big Ben has got to show that he is all in, and he's got to play at a high level, because if he does, I do believe that with that defense and the weapons he's got on offense, the Steelers have a chance to contend. But again, it all hinges on Big Ben. And so, I don't know. We will see how this thing shakes out here. It's going to be, like I said, a pretty fascinating season. Again, remember, preseason's going to be cut down from 4 games to 3 games. The regular season is going from 16 games to 17 games. And so it means more great and meaningful football. And we're going to talk about it all here as it rolls on. And again, 3 more weeks. I can't wait. Next week, we'll have another episode. Then I'm going to hit the road with my son. I'm going to go to Georgia. He's got a baseball tournament for 10 days down there. And then I'll hit back. And last week of July, we're jumping in at training camp. And, we'll see how this thing all unfolds. One other thing, though, I wanted to bring to your attention, which I thought was interesting. I get all kinds of crazy emails. And this was one that really was a little bit surprising to me. This was a email sent to me by it was called an organization called the Action Network, and it reveals which NFL stars have received the most trolling over the last year on social media. And who do you think is number 1? Maybe this one isn't a surprise, but number 1 is Tom Brady. He has had 4,870,126 posts on social media about him, with 15% of them being negative, which leads the league. I understand everybody hates Tom Brady because, jealousy, of course. How do you hate the GOAT, the guy who's got more Super Bowl rings than anybody? But again, a lot of people don't like him because they're jealous. So I wasn't surprised by that. But number 2 on this list really did surprise me. The number 2, the second most trolled player on social media in the last year, from May 2020 to 21, was Patrick Mahomes. How do you troll Patrick Mahomes? I mean, this guy is the most electrifying, one of the most entertaining players to watch. He's a good kid, a good human being. I mean, he freaking bought voting booths and things like that to make sure people could get out and vote. He's a family guy, just as down to earth and humble as they come, and he's the second most trolled player in the NFL. I didn't understand number 3 either. Aaron Donald of the Rams. I just don't understand. Like, how is he I mean, I don't understand. What do you not like about Aaron Donald? He's a monster. He is, built just like a brick house. He has got no fat. He is impossible to block on the interior. Can't block him one-on-one. Also, another guy that's a good guy. I was surprised by that. Number 4 also, I think, will surprise you. Drew Brees. Another great guy. I mean, he was the Walter Payton Man of the Year a couple years ago. I know that he got people a little upset when he was talking about the anthem stuff and saying, teammates shouldn't protest the anthem and things like that, and that upset people. But as a whole, come on, Drew Brees, great guy, great dad from everything we can tell, great teammate. All of his teammates respect him. And again, one of the greats. Now, this one right here, number 5, does not surprise me. Josh Norman, defensive back. It was unfortunate for him. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time last year when Derrick Henry basically stiff-armed him and threw him into the next state. And there were so many memes about Josh Norman. That was hilarious to me. Obviously nobody wants to be in that position, but that's a grown man, Derrick Henry, about twice the size of Josh Norman, threw him. And so I understand why Josh Norman got trolled. So that rounds out your top 5: Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Donald, Drew Brees, and Josh Norman. The list is very interesting from that point on. Jalen Hurts, Derek Carr, Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins. Who hates DeAndre Hopkins? Aaron Rodgers. I don't understand that. Cam Newton, I understand why he gets trolled, but it's very interesting. You can go to the Action Network. It's called The Shocking Truth About NFL Trolling. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting. Had to share that with you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're enjoying your summer, that you are safe and you're healthy. Thanks so much for listening. Again, you can read me at usatoday.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByMikeJones. And I will talk to you guys again next time.